Entering the alpha state. This is a second part to the first video that I did. If you haven't watched the first video, I highly recommend you watch the first video because it'll make much more sense, because the alpha state really is the key to activating the God force, becoming more God than human on Earth. And this is exactly how we intertwine the heavenly energies with the Earth energies as we step into this new age of Aquarius. And I want to just say that I got such great feedback from the last video, so many private messages and notes and emails from everyone who watched, that it really inspired me to take you to a completely different level, which I didn't really have an intention to, but now it's like really exciting because you grasp it. And this is really a true differentiator between, I guess, the people that watch these episodes that I'm teaching, because there's really nowhere else that I'm aware of on YouTube or really on the internet that is teaching it exactly the way I teach this. And I think the big part of it is because I actually see this in my mind's eye. It's not something that I'm copying from someone else, where you look at some of these other teachers, I mean, literally, you could almost take a sentence and run a copy infringement check, and that sentence will pop up onto like 3 or 4 other gurus that they just kind of lifted. So you got to be careful about who you follow, because there is truth in resonance. And so today I want to go deeper down, as I say, the rabbit hole, and talk about the alpha state and really how that bridges between the two laws which I primarily talk about, which again have never been talked about on this planet, and that is the law of attunement and the law of blossoming. So welcome, evolutionaries. I'm absolutely thrilled that you're here today, because this is like really exciting as I kind of get a chance to kind of open my mind and share some things that I typically don't share in a public forum. So this is very exciting to me. And one of the things that inspired me to do this was I gave this analogy, because I had a couple people writing in. So I gave an analogy. I was like, well, you know, this analogy would actually play out and work for the entire viewing audience, because they truly need to understand the topic that I broached last time about stepping into the alpha state. Now I'm going to talk about exactly how the alpha state plays within the two laws of attunement and blossoming. So let's jump into it. So one of the things that I want to talk about is the threshold. So when a lot of teachers out there talk about whatever law they're talking about, they're really talking about it at a very superficial level. I mean, they really don't understand the nuances of what lies underneath. So in other words, you see the ocean, and you see this amazing topical just basin of water that stretches infinitely, I mean, as far as the eye can see, but they have no clue what's underneath the ocean. And this is the challenge, especially with law of attraction teachers, because law of attraction teachers, I've never heard any of them, with the exception of Gay Hendricks. So Gay Hendricks was originally supposed to be in the movie The Secret, and he was removed. Why? Because he actually gave a warning around the law of attraction, because if you were not totally healed, let's say if you had a trauma, whether you were raped or molested or whatever it might have been, as a child, a teenager, whatever, if you're not fully healed, then that creates a disruption, a disharmony in the resonance of who you are. And if you are practicing the law of attraction, which, again, you guys know I'm not a big fan of, then what happens is like a fish comes up and eats you like a bug on the surface of the water, because of this disharmonic frequency that's within the resonance of who you are, you've actually attracted something bad. I mean, very bad. And this is why I see people that date and get involved with abusive relationships and all kinds of crazy things, because they're applying things without the warning that they have to heal themselves. Now, this video is not about healing, and maybe I'll do a video in the future, but every law of attraction teacher should give a warning, and if they're not, shame on them, because they are creating more damage than anyway, so let me jump into this, because this is what is important. I think you get the hint. So again, the whole premise of what I do and what I teach is to end the reincarnation cycle. And the way to end the reincarnation cycle is to become more God, activating the God spark, the force within you, than human. So in other words, you become this magi, this enlightened star that overshined Christ in the birthing of man. And this is exactly actually what Neville Goddard talks about, is the birthing of the Christ within. And this is exactly what I'm talking about and sharing so that we understand and we're on the same page. So again, what I'm talking about is not just on the surface level. I'm going to take you deeper down and kind of explain to you the nuances of the depths within. And so one of the things my guides told me a long time ago, which is really cool, is ascend into the depths. So a lot of people think that you ascend going up. Well, no. You ascend into the depths of who you are, into the soul, and you become more illuminated as you discover the presence of God within you. And this is really exciting. So let me explain the analogy that I shared with a couple of the watchers, the viewers of the last episode. So I compared it to like two swimming pools. And so the attunement happens when you break through the threshold, and let's say you're in a kiddie pool, which is 1/2 meter deep. So, and that 1/2 meter is the attunement of the frequency that you now have become familiar with. This is stepping into that alpha state. And so once you've stepped into that alpha state, you begin to scale. And once you scale, you begin to blossom what it is within that frequency range. So in other words, you're not just a frequency. You're not just this attunement into this one spark. You're turning this spark into a sun, into this amazing light that is illumination, because what happens, and this is what a lot of people don't get, is the God force is always expanding. So we are creating an experience of light from within us for all those that are around us. And so as we move and attune to the kiddie pool, if you will, we step into the adult pool once we make certain steps within our own personal growth. So we are transmuting who we are to become something greater. And that just takes practice. A lot of people think that I just kind of stumbled across this, but and I did when I turned 50, but this was 8 years ago. So I am totally vested in finding and exploring new depths within the eternal wellspring, the infinite wellspring of God, to illuminate the God spark. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, because I just had a really crazy experience, but I want to share with you guys at the end of this video. So as we, again, go from the kiddie pool, which we're now attuned to this, and we're stepping into that state. Remember, the state is really the alpha, where we are opening and starting to unfold, but we're attuned to that specific frequency. And so now we step into the adult pool, and the adult pool, as let's say, starts out at 1 meter, and it goes infinitely to 10 meters, 30 meters. But when we start going and exploring beyond the kiddie pool, if you will, and this is something that they kind of talk about in traditional meditation, and you don't really need to meditate to do this. Once you master this, you can step into this state while you're awake. But you fall into what they call the gap. And I see the gap really is going into this state, and then every now and then you pop up to breathe. So you're attuned and you pop up to breathe, because you can't hold the frequency, because you are attuning yourself. You are becoming familiar with the resonance, if you will. It's like continually fine-tuning a radio, so that the old style radio is not like you push buttons today. That's different. But so you attune to the frequency. And then again, you're not able, just like when we go swimming, when we're younger, able to hold your breath underwater for very long. But the more experienced we get and become, we actually are able to hold our breath longer. And we're able to go down, let's say, and sit on the bottom. And so we're able to sit on the bottom of the deep end for a tremendous amount of time. And what happens is we begin to, as we step from here to here to here, and we expand with the oneness of the water. So think about the oneness of the water as the oneness of the God force within you that's permeating all things. And as I mentioned in the last video, this allows us to penetrate and be seen by other people who have the God force awakened within them all over the world, really all over the universe and beyond even dimensions, because they are now seeing this spark in the distance, and they are drawn to this spark. And this is pretty amazing, because as you become one, you begin to control this mass, this equilibrium of, let's say, water right now, just using an analogy, of water right here in the, in expanding this throughout the pool. And of course, because we are infinite beings, and I'm talking about a swimming pool for infinity, there is no end. It goes on forever. So you are the pool. You are the water of the pool. You are the infinite energies that are within the pool. And this is really cool, because once you do this, you move and you begin to constantly expand. So again, here we are attuning to the specific frequency once we step into alpha. Once we are in alpha, we begin to blossom. And this is the law of blossoming, where we are expanding and we are illuminating this God spark within us. And then from here, again, we're measuring ourselves on this harmonic scale, which is really cool, because again, you're becoming more God than human. So again, we are permeating the ego with our God force, which is elevating and evolving the ego. It's creating an ascension process, a transmutation process. So we become, again, more than human. And that's really cool, because this is what the Magi is. So the Magi, tied to the imagination of the blossoming of who we are, we become this, and we become creators. Again, our goal is to be a creator. We are and have this infinite ability to create, because everything we do is a creation. The law of reality, the reality that surrounds us, no matter it's where we live, whatever, that is the reality that we have created for ourselves. And so by becoming more God than human, we now have the ability to evolve beyond that and create whatever real circumstance, is that the right word? Circumstance that we really desire. So as we evolve in blossom and begin creating, what happens is, again, we become more God than human. So what happens is, when you look at time and then space, so this is a very simple drawing, but I think you'll get the hang of it. We actually reverse time. So we, here being more ego than God, we return back to here, because there is no time, as we all know. We become infinite within the space of the space, which is really the place of the Magi. And so we become no thing. So as we move backwards, it's not only backwards, but as we move towards and away from time, we actually become and are able to create. So in other words, if you are, let's just say, planning on buying a house and you're doing a creation process within a year, and if you now have activated this and have become and illuminated this God force within you, you now, instead of a year, because time is irrelevant to God, you become more God, you now have eliminated the aspect of time. And so maybe that happens in 6 months or maybe 3 months. But it's really key and critical to understand that once you become more God than human, you've drinking from that infinite wellspring on the harmonic scale, you now have become more. And so the deeper into the wellspring, the more readily able you are to create. So it's not even a matter of even going out and almost making money, because one of the great books of all times is The Masters of the Far East, where these masters, Himalayan masters, would walk into a store and they would buy something as they had come down from the mountains, Shambhala, and they would like hold their hand out and money would materialize because they were gold at the time, but they were able to create things from the nothing. And this is exactly what happens here. As a matter of fact, if any of you know or are familiar with Joe Dispenza is an amazing teacher, and he actually talks about stepping into the no thing to heal yourself. Now, he is a healer, and he heals, and people that go to his workshops have this interaction with the God force. And it's interesting because there's one interview, and I may have shared this a while back, but he actually talks about these 20-foot invisible beings, and everybody in the room can see these beings that come down and interact with the group in the in his seminars. And it's really cool because what's happening, again, you've now become more God than human, and you've allowed the gods, these angelic beings, to come down and interact on a mass scale, which creates this mass healing. And it's really phenomenal. And that's really all I'm doing here is teaching you how to, again, step into alpha and then attune yourself and then expand and blossom that attunement. So you're taking up, you're holding your breath underwater longer. You are expanding like the flower. And once that flower expands, you have like bumblebees, if you will, that come and pollinate because they are attracted to you. And I think one of the things I alluded to, or actually stated in my last video or episode, was that I have people that call me from all over the world, send me notes, because it's a matter of this illuminating factor that happens within you as you become more God than human. And this is really the time that we have chosen to step out and become and walk this sacred path. And this isn't for everyone. I mean, this is certainly not rah-rah. This is something for an adept. And the adept is someone who is willing to practice and go beyond and step beyond even their own personal boundaries. Maybe you have a fear. And this is one of the things that I've always done is I push past these boundaries that I've constructed within the mental construct of my mind, because I know that if there's any boundaries, if there's any walls or things that are holding me back, I know that it is my construct. It is no one else's but mine, which is interesting because that's one of the things I wanted to kind of wind this video up on is how to really, when you think about meditation, a lot of people talk about you go to a quiet place, you want to go to the same place, kind of like your altar or whatever, and it's just a place where you create this resonance. And, I don't necessarily buy into that. As a matter of fact, I don't buy into it. Why is that, Joe? Well, because I live in a kind of a central part of a city in Texas, in Houston, actually. And so, I don't know why. Anyway, it's Houston. And it's really noisy. It's almost, I'm not going to say like New York City, but you have all these trucks and things. It's this really cool kind of like industrial place, but it's really loud. And so I've actually had to train myself to block everything out. And there's and go within, and so that there, no matter what the distraction is, I'm able to contemplate and go and enrich myself with regards to awakening the God force, no matter what is going on around me. And sometimes it's challenging. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm still human. There's always going to be a percentage of me while I'm here on video with you that's human. But the point is to expand beyond that. And I remember hearing a great story of a monk who met the Dalai Lama. This is like a 50-year-old story or something. And the monk was meditating for like 10 years and he got a chance to leave his place in the cave in the Himalayas. And he came down to meet the Dalai Lama and his hand was sweating. And he was like, oh my God, I failed. And so he went back and meditated for another 10 years and then came back and was able to meet the Dalai Lama without his hands sweating and this and that. So the point is that it is an evolutionary process. And if you just stay up inside of a cave where it's quiet and everything is perfect and you're going to the same place, you're going to and it's got to be quiet, it's not really preparing you for real life, for what is beyond, because there are things that are beyond that you will never be able to experience because you've got to learn how to control the God force. One of the things I talked about in the last video was that, you can be wide open, but can you control it? It'd be like a ship without a rudder. It's going to run aground. And so the point being is that you and I both always need to be very consistent about learning to control what it is that we are bringing forth, this blossoming of the God force within us. And that's really exciting, because one of the things I want to share here is that this is just 2 days ago, is I was meditating and I was got into the alpha state, and I was attuning within the alpha state. And I noticed this really cool, actually 2 or 3 really cool golden spirals, kind of like fireflies or dragonflies. And I was like, wow, it's really awesome. And of course, this is in my mind's eye, my mind. So I'm meditating, and I'm deep within the pool. I'm deeper probably than I've been in a long time. And I look over and I see these spirals, and I'm thinking, this is just such amazing beauty. What is that? And I'm thinking to myself, contemplating, why am I being shown this? Should I go climb these stairs? What should I do? So I walk over and I touch these golden lights, and it's like bam. It's like really bam. It knocked me out. I was out for almost 2.5 hours, and I woke up and it was 9:30 something in the morning, and I was like, what just happened? So I'm sharing that story for a reason. One is that we will all experience new things. Even me, who has done this, and I have interacted with a lot of different beings and angelic guides and yada, yada, yada. But this was a completely new energy for me, and it knocked me for a loop. And the other thing is that sometimes people talk about when you meditate that you fall asleep. Well, and that could be true, but sometimes you may be breaching the threshold of a new energy, and that new energy basically just knocks you out. So don't give up. Go back and try to envision and understand what it was that knocked you and put you to sleep. And then go beyond that, because these energies, really, we are evolving. So we're still in physical form. And so whatever this golden energy light stream, these amazing, I wish I could describe it better. It was like just these twinkling spirals, staircase of, I want to say dragonflies, but they were blinking on and off, and it was so totally amazing. And again, I reached over to touch them, and like I said, last thing I remember for 2.5 hours. So, they had different plans than I had, obviously, or that energy. Because, and when I say energy, and when I say these spirals, there is infinite intelligence embedded in all energy. And so when you are breaching or going up to a new level, things will happen. Things may get a little crazy, but you can't stop exploring. You are an evolutionary. You are this amazing God force, and the whole goal, and this is why we are in Earth School, is to expand, not to enrich our bank accounts. Yeah, certainly, we all want to live nicely. That's not the issue. But we all need to expand and go forth. We should never contract. We need to see the God, the Creator, in each and every one of us, and know that everything is creation. And so this amazing spiral golden staircase of energy of dragonflies or lightning bugs, maybe. I don't even know. It was just cool. But whatever it was had a message for me in whatever it was, and maybe even because I'm not consciously aware of it, that doesn't mean that deep down within the unconscious aspects of who I am, it didn't plug something into me to, again, blossom. So, angels, energies, infinite intelligence, they will come and plant a seed within you. And this is actually one of the more frustrating things when I first started meditating, that I would get bits and pieces, and I didn't really understand at the time that I wasn't ready from an evolutionary, from an energetic perspective to hold the space for the entire picture. But now I'm growing, I'm evolving, and I'm seeing more in the depths with the clarity of my mind's eye, which allows me to swim, hold my breath at 30 meters down, right? At the deep end of the pool. And I'm not having to run back up to catch my breath. And this is a beautiful thing. Neither will you. You will continue to grow within and blossom and expand, have these wonderful experiences. So the resonance of the God force within you expands. And so with that, I'm going to end this video, but I wanted to let you know that crazy things still happen to me. and it's always exciting because I am, even though I don't even call myself a teacher, but the things that I share is for the sole purpose of your evolution and my evolution, because as I teach, I become more familiar with what's going on within with what the guides have planted and shared with me. And so it's very exciting for me. So please leave me your comments, share your thoughts. If I could answer any questions, I love you guys. And so again, my whole goal, the game plan, is to escape the game. And I'm taking as many of you as I can with me, because my goal is to, again, 1,000 years, 1,000 lifetimes, buy the drinks at the universe, at the other side of the bar, at a bar at the other side of the universe. And again, I'm buying. So I love you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Oh, bye-bye.